crouch, bind, set.
Joe presents the House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
And now the end is near, and so we face the final episode. Welcome one and all to the last run round the roundabout on House of Rugby. The season, I suppose it doesn't draw to a close, but it's going to pause for a little bit of summer holiday action. So very nice to round things up with the usual twosome. Welcome back to Hoff, who's got a little lovely off-the-shoulder number this week for us. And I'm not quite sure what the Lord is wearing. What is this? Just an ordinary demi-dad?
Well,
talk us through.
I heard that Si was a big Moana fan. So mine says, just an ordinary demi-dad. You're welcome. So it's just for Si.
Oh.
I love
it.
A little gift.
Si's a big fan of moaning.
My daughter's got just a little thing my daughter's got me for Father's Day. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a demi-dad. Who knows?
We can wholeheartedly agree. Welcome along to House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our very good friends at Guinness for the last time this season. We were going to be joined by Nigel Owens on our final show, which we were very much looking forward to, given that Nigel is the most requested guest we've ever had. But unfortunately, Paul Nigel's had a bit of a setback, so he isn't joining us this week. But obviously, as always, we send him lots of love and hugs. So it's a chance for the three of us to natter away, as we do, touring, I suppose going through whatever it is that we fancy talking about on this week's show. It's not really a sort of huge plan of attack, but it's a nice chance to sum up, reflect, and perhaps look ahead as well. It is nice, I would just say, of you to make it this week, Tins, because last week you ducked out at the final hour because...
No, I was doing some stuff that I'd forgotten around Ascot. Obviously, you might have seen we popped up on the TV. We got dressed up in top hats, and we had a good day at home, and possibly might have had a drink or two. So it wouldn't have been wise for me to be on the air.
Was it top hat and tails from 8 a.m? Or was that standard?
Not from 8 a.m. No, just before you got dressed, just changed before racing started, and then obviously did the thing on ITV Racing, and then it just sort of continued until sort of the last race was later. I don't know what time the last race, 4:30, 5 o'clock. So it was a good day had, even if we weren't at Ascot.
I'm calling bullshit on that. That's a lie. You just got more money doing Ascot than you did doing the podcast. You fucking got rid of us.
No, I'm a true professional, Hask. But I had to. We were doing so. I'd already got onto some Zoom. It was all Zoomy calls and stuff like that I wasn't going to get out of it. Or if I had have got out for it, my wife might have been very upset with me. So basically, the boss reeled me in.
And also, that new conservatory is not going to pay for itself, is it? Let's be honest. Let's be completely brutal about it, is it? You know, that new AstroTurf garden. Yeah.
There's an east wing going on the east wing, I think it is, isn't it? We're sort of building out in like a sort of Lego.
You always read about it, those stately homes. You know, those stately homes always falling apart. Like, you know, there's a roof and the Sistine Chapel in the east bedroom's not going to get not repaired. Listen, I'll be completely honest with you. If I could sack House of Rugby off and go and do something else, I would, but nobody wants me. I'm unemployed. The only mate I've got is Alex, and this is all we do, so it's fine. I'm happy. I'll let you get away with it.
Don't forget, you've always got the three best friends, James. We're the three best friends you could ever have.
This is very true.
You've had a fashion disaster this week. We've had jorts on your Instagram feed, and I think we've lost between 15 and 20% of your following off the back of it, haven't we?
Yes. So basically, it was an olive. I mean, look, I know Si, because Si, rules the edit with an iron fist here, with a very liberal application of putting things on the cutting room floor that shows him in a negative light. But he is a man that loves denim, wears denim all the time, goes to bed in denim, has denim pajamas, and is often seen with a denim, everything's done up at the top knot, being the sort of man that he is. And I thought I'd extend an olive branch. I don't own a lot of denim apart from jeans, so I thought I'd sew some denim shorts, jorts, which I didn't know was a thing. And I had a big weekend, and I was actually around meeting a couple of dogs. I was thinking about getting one. Chloe doesn't want one, so I was trying to introduce her to the neighbours who've got a couple of lovely dogs. So we had a social distance dog meeting, and I put it up on Instagram. And Si, unfortunately, has got very aggressive with the insults about my jorts. But I did point out, a man that wears a top button done up most of the day will have a restricted flow of blood to the head. So his judgment is often impaired. His carotid artery struggles to pump any brain. So there's a lack of development and a lack of judgment. So I'm not going to take fashion advice from a Canadian poor man's George Clooney. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to have it.
We're going to add jorts to the House of Rugby merchandise range. And we'll have your face on the back pockets, or whatever it is. Inexcusable. Couple of other quite interesting little bits, actually. The Ellis Genge, did you listen to that, Tins, last week? We had Ellis on, who was fabulous, as always. We've got a little shout-out on the Today programme, which is always... I mean, who would have thought the ramshackle shed operation that is House of Rugby would be mentioned on the biggest current affairs programme in the UK? We got a nice little shout-out on that. And just some amazing pickup off the back of Ellis, again. Hask.
I know, yeah, he was brilliant. I thought, look, actually, interesting enough, without getting into too many details, on some of the podcasts we've had, when we've talked about people's honesty, that's come across as potentially we're either, agreeing with what they're saying. But what I mean, but when we've always meant by honesty, is the freedom to be able to speak your opinion and your mind. And I think Ellis does that very well. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. The feedback I get from a lot of people is he adds a new dimension to rugby and speaks from a different perspective, and I think it's really important. Both of us didn't necessarily agree on everything, but we certainly agreed on certain things, and I think rugby has a lot of work to do. But I think players like Ellis are a real breath of fresh air but I think it's I said this at the time. I think it's very dangerous to be a person like Ellis because. We live in quite a conformist world. I think rugby is more conformist than any other sport. And I think that people who put their head above the parapet expose themselves. And I just hope with Ellis that he continues to keep the form on the field. He's able to play the game when the game needs to be played, but he's also able to keep his opinion and be fresh. And I think, rugby's in a real state of flux at the moment. And hopefully we're going to get to, some progress along the way.
Credit where credit's due. I actually thought you spoke very well on it last week as well, which I don't often say, but I thought you nailed it. I wondered whether, given your role with the RPA, you've chatted to Damien Hopley, or whether there's been... I mean, everyone's fighting for their own patch at the moment, but it does feel like the RPA are in the most unenviable position of all.
Yeah, look, very much so. I think the RPA, before we did last week's show, it's very important that, while... we joke and we have backs and forwards. We try to do our research before the show goes up. We try to speak to lots of people. I had a chat with Damien, and I've talked to other members of the RPA to get a sort of a rounded view. And I don't envy them. I think they're under a lot of pressure. I think they've achieved some fantastic things within rugby. Obviously negotiate the standardised contract with Premiership Rugby to get everybody on an even keel. Sorting out the injury protocol that used to be. If you were injured, or say you did your knee, and your knee took 6 months to come back to full playing, you could actually get sacked by your club at any time. After a 6 month period, they've had that move to 9 months with full pay and plus 3.5 pay after that. Resulting in 10.5 months full pay for any serious injury. So there's lots of little things and battles they've won. I just think at the moment there is a bigger sort of war at hand, which is the club's ability to do what they want. And I think, the RPA are treated as an accessory when they should be, front and centre, because they do have the capabilities and the care for the players, but they're not often always afforded that access. And that, they have to play pickup so much of the time.
Yeah. We're actually already stacking up the guests for when we come back, the likes of Bill Sweeney at the RFU, and I'm sure Damien will come and have a chat with us as well. So hopefully we'll have some progress that will be made over the summer months. Obviously, the rugby coming back on August the 15th. So lots of, I suppose, watch this space. I just wondered, Tins, actually, whether you'd got a view on the landscape as it sits right now, or whether, frankly, should we talk about something else? It's going to play out, but I'm still a little bit worried. If we talked about the RPA, they are in the worst position. I think for 95% of the time they do a fantastic job for the players, but then this is the sort of area where it gets really difficult for them. Because the PRL put them in a difficult position. But, Darren Charles came onto the PRL to bring more commercialisation, things that Hask has always said needs in rugby, more money into the game, a fresher look on it. And he's then walked into a shit show of COVID-19 landing on his doorstep, and now he's got to sort of be something he's not, which is a politician, and be able to get 13 clubs to actually vote on
on and agree on something, which is basically impossible because they've all got their own agendas. So he's it's in a difficult, which then puts the players in a difficult place. And I don't think there's been mixed message from who I've spoken to within the game. I think if you look at Sale, they've obviously got their business done. They've completely recontracted every single player in their squad, which is incredible how they've managed to get that done, and then no one else has managed to do it. And from what I hear, it's because they had what Haskell and I had said that needed to start from the open and honest conversations with the players, sat them down, literally let the players grill them on the situation. I believe that the owner, Simon Orange, was in there, and that they basically had to do a lot of convincing to the players, but the players then bought into it, and that's how they managed to lock players who are older. I know they've got quite a young squad, but they've pushed them through into those older guys. They've extended their contracts to give them security through extended contracts rather than even though they've had to reduce their money. But why other players can't do this, I don't know. And then obviously then you've got the RFU playing a role somewhere within that in terms of, what you can do with academy. Haskell and I said, why don't we do why can't we have like a draft? So you can have 20 academy players, but they all go off and play for clubs in lower divisions, because then you find out whether they're going to be good enough to mix it with men, and you can bring them back if they are, or because what's the point of wasting, the youngest average academy player you'll probably get in is going to be 21 to 22. So he's probably been in your academy for 4 years by then. You're wasting 4 years if suddenly then you figure out you can't make it. So why can't you send him out, play with men's rugby? If the cream rises to the top, it'll always rise to the top, and you can bring them back. If you don't want them in that first year, you can draft other teams can swoop in for them. I think there's more things you can do which allow you to have smaller squads but still have able to dip in and dip out. So, and you get 300 grand for a homegrown talent back, but you're probably spending £1 million on your academy a year. So where's the financial work in that? So I think there's still massive amounts of problems to be dealt with, and I just wish they'd sort it out. I mean, how are we going to get the PRL to agree on a global season? Some teams want it, some teams don't want it, but again, it's to fit their own agenda. Whereas this is where the man at the top needs to be saying, no, this is what we really want to do, and being the sort of politician who can direct them in that way. But is Darren Charles the right man to do that? I think he's more about bringing commercialisation to the game. And I think he wasn't really ready for COVID-19 to come in and hit him as soon as he sat down behind the desk. So I think there's a lot of issues to sort out. But, I just hope that someone can see sense and everyone can work to the same goal, and someone can sell a dream and everyone buys into it. Otherwise, we're going to be arguing about things and nothing's going to get done.
Tell you what, you two don't speak some sense sometimes. I mean, I know people come here for an escape, but once or twice, some real pearls fall out of their heads. I'm very impressed.
Alex, I do think what we've talked about with all this stuff backwards and forwards to Ellis and what Mike's saying now is actually clarity about who runs the game and who represents the players and how it's done is what needs to happen more so than anything else. Because yes, teams have got stuff over the line quite quickly. I know, for example, talking to some of the lads, Northampton have handled things fantastically well with what they've done. But the point is that you need to have one governing body discussing it with a player body and getting things concise. Now, not one, you can't fit a round peg into a square hole, and obviously different clubs have different situations, but there should be some general consensus, some sort of clear communication. And I think where rugby's lacking is everybody points the finger at everybody else to say, well, listen, it's not me, it's their job. And you go to them and they say, well, actually, we can't do that because we're hamstrung. And that's why the game can't evolve. I had Dan Leo come to the house the other day, and I filmed something for him for his Pacific Island documentary that he's doing. My views on the Pacific Islands and everything else, and the players I played with, and some of the challenges they're facing. And I've seen his tweets recently, which I know we're going through a very difficult time with Black Lives Matter at the moment. I think that's probably more important than anything. But it was interesting to talk about the swing low, sweet chariot thing, and I'm not going to go into depth about that. But it's interesting is that they're worried about that, yet we've got a dictator running Fijian rugby. There's 3 votes to 1. We can't get a global game. We can't do any of these things. Players aren't getting paid. When England play Tonga at Twickenham, if that goes ahead, the Tongan players are getting £100. The England players are getting X amount of money, and we're worried about swing low, sweet chariot. And it's like a bit like rearranging the deck chairs on a Titanic. Now, I know that that's important, and I'm not saying it's not, but why does it take something like that to make some changes when actually there should be changes going on? You asked me what Bill Beaumont does, apart from being a legend of a bloke, an ex-hero of English rugby. What's going on? Why is all this stuff allowed to happen? If nobody says it's in their power to remit and control, who is making the decisions? I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard on the grapevine that both all New Zealand, Australia, Tonga, and Argentina aren't going to travel in the autumn. So we might end up playing someone like, I think what I'm hearing is Japan, South Africa, and then we'll have home nations games in the autumn.
Yeah, 6 nations plus 2 invited guests.
Yeah. And then is it going to be in front of crowded? How are they going to do it? But you know that if they put those games on and they're not allowed to fully crowd it, or they've got to reduce it, the place that they're not reducing is going to be corporate and sponsorship in terms of their spots, and so probably Joe Public's going to be hit. But is that the nature of the beast now in terms of you've got to keep your sponsors happy in terms of what they do? So it's a really difficult spot which they need to sort out. There's still the 15th of August is still up in the air, or 17th of August is still up in the air. We need some clarity, we need some direction, and that only comes by even just in this country working together, let alone when you're trying to put a global season together. I mean, I was saying that you asked Haskell and I to do it, and we did that thing in a week or whatever. But I sat with, I spent sort of 2 days on that thing. Someone could have come up with something like that.
Your plan for the future and the proposal for the game. Yeah, and it was a very good bit of homework. Genuinely, it was a very good proposal.
But then they could have taken that to Australia and go, right, this is what we're thinking. What is feasible in your country? Taking it to New Zealand, is this feasible? Is this and then had a feedback, and that would have taken 2 weeks maximum. But yet they just go, oh, well, we're going to talk about it. Well, when does the talking stop and actually someone go, right, we need to do this? The game is at the right time to change. I think there's probably 5 or 6 clubs in this country who would jump on the back of a global season, but then there's probably 6 that's not. So you're never going to get an agreement through the PRL. So someone has to then sit at the top of the RFU, the PRL, and they've got to go, right, we've got to work as a 3. This is what we should work towards. Now we've got to sell it. We've got to sell it to everyone. And then just get people to vote. But unfortunately for the sort of PRL, you have to have 13 votes all agreeing. You can't have one against, or it doesn't work. I think that's right, isn't it? I don't know, but I think it is.
Tins, what I tell you is you want to get the people who keep fiddling with the rules every year to make the decision on the global decision, because but they don't get any permission to change their rules, but they get it done with everybody, and they make them up, and they just come in and go, by the way, you can't do this now. By the way, we're going to, free kicks for everything. You can't swim through the middle of a mall. Can't enter. You can't bind. That shit gets through with nobody putting their hands up. So just get those people who make dodgy laws and just get them to run it by, because nobody seems to be able to stop them. I turn up at the beginning of the season, they're like, you're doing this now. It's like, fucking hell, I've only just learned how to do the other bit. Not very well, admittedly, but you know what I mean? I don't know. Somebody somewhere can make shit happen, but they can't seem to change anything that anybody cares about. I don't know.
I just wonder if money talks at the end of the day. And, CVC, at the moment, are the big players. There are 1 or 2 others floating around. If you can get the money men around a table, I think you can crack heads together and get something done very quickly. But we shall see. I mean, there is, by all accounts, a general consensus to try and get to the right point. But the blocking stone apparently is PRL and the top 14 clubs.
But that's always going to be, congratulations, we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of professional rugby.
I was going to come on to that.
You look back at 2000 when the RFU thought about giving us centrally contracted players, the clubs then just went, well, if you do that, we won't play them. So you'll just have a squad that plays international rugby and they won't play any other games. So that's as good as English rugby is and French is in terms of how it's supported, it also dictates a lot of what goes on, because they control so many of the players, because they are their day-to-day bread and butter, and the players are loyal to them, and ultimately they have a lot of power because they, as I said, you have to vote unanimously for anything. So if someone doesn't like it, they just say, no thanks, we don't want it, and they know that kills the whole thing. So that's why that's again why you've got to have someone who's very expert at selling a dream to someone to get them to buy into it.
So that's really, I just want to pick up on this. I wasn't intending to go down this route, but it's interesting that we are. What you've just mentioned there about central contracts in 2000, if you'd had the choice of, you were with Bath at that point, if you'd had the chance of X amount with Bath over the course of whatever it was, a 3-year deal or a 3-year deal with England, which also meant that you would move to, let's say, Moseley, but, the RFU were going to grow the championship as it was, and you would play 10 games a year for Moseley, albeit at a fairly low level, but you'd also be in prime peak condition for Six Nations, Summer Tour, Autumn Internationals. Which would you have done?
Very interesting question. But I think it would have depended on the rest of the England players. We had such a good group and such a tight group. We would have either all done it or none of us had done it. And if we'd have all done it, I would have signed it. I wouldn't have signed it if not the rest of the 30 in that squad. Back then, the RFU controlled what was Europe. It was a union-owned competition. And so the RFU could have said, brilliant, PRL, go and do your own thing, have fun with it. We're going to put, trying to think of clubs in the championship at that point, but let's say Bedford, Moseley, Nottingham,
and Cornish Pirates into Europe. We're going to put England players into each of those. You will play European rugby. You'll play 1 or 2 warm-up games to get yourself ready, and you'll play England internationals. Yeah,
I mean, I think if they'd have sold it that way, it would have forced the club's hands. But then it just depends what the owners then do. Would they have just got out and sold it, and would you have just destroyed those clubs? And then how would that have come through the other side of it? I don't know. It's very tricky now because we're so entrenched in it. Whereas back then we would have survived if we'd have done it then. I think because we're only 3 years in. The growth that we have now, you could say the clubs have even more power because of how much money is within the game. Even though it's reducing a little bit now, but you would have still said they would have done it. I think I would have gone with England as long as all the other players have done, because ultimately I want to play for England all the time. So that would have been the smarter option for me. And you talk about looking after bodies. Even back then, you were doing bone on bone a lot. It would have been a smart move to do. Someone's murdering my child, by the way.
Can I just say how pleased I am to hear bedtime going so well in Chateau de Tindall? I presume that's Tindall mine. It's not Chloe.
Yeah, that is. Chloe's in the kitchen being very quiet. She's definitely not screaming. If she is, someone's broken into the house, but they haven't. I can see her.
Don't stop recording, Hask. We haven't got time to muck about. Crikey, I mean, we're talking about ifs, buts and maybes. And it's interesting you mentioned it's 25 years today since Michael Watt's company brokered the deal that changed rugby forever and took it into the professional ranks. And here we are, ifs, buts and maybes still. Are we better or worse? When did you start? 97, 98, didn't you, Tins? You weren't...
Yeah, 97, 98. I joined Bath after the England schoolboys tour of Australia in 97. Yeah.
So you were playing with a lot of what were amateur players, Dorr, Guscott, etc., etc.
Obviously Ollie Redmond, all the greats.
Redmond,
Richard, Dave Hilton, Andy Nicol, Rich Butland, Adideo Adiberry, Ian Evans, John Collard. Yeah,
the 97 European team in a nutshell. Victor, do you look back now and think? And I'm not quite sure what the qualifying criteria is, but the generic question is, are we better or worse off? I mean, do you look at what you had in 95, 96, 97 at Bath and the players you had and the game that it was and compare it to what we have today? Which would you pick if they were both on either side of the playground?
I think we had. I still think we had a great product back there, but obviously now we have better athletes and we have more technically sound players, but I don't think we have smarter rugby players. I don't think generally. I think your smarts got you through a lot more of the games back then, whereas today it's like, right, this is how we're going to play. This is the pattern. Everyone sticks to it. If it works, we win. If it doesn't work, we lose. But we did have a lot more balance about off field as well, and fun outside that, and some of the stuff that went on back then you just couldn't do now. But then it was a lot of fun at the time, and you understood what it was going through, and the sort of hierarchy that you had when you first joined a team, and having to make work your way from the bottom up to the top. I loved that period, but that was because of what I grew up on. You could say to someone who's at the top of the game, who's still quite young, Owen or whoever, and then ask him in 15 years' time when he sees where the game is now, and he'd probably go, "Oh, that was the best time ever." But realistically, I think that early 2000s was the best period. But I was playing for a fantastic England team and having the time of my life down in Bath. Seeing a very young Alex Payne wearing the full kit wanker and cheering us on, it was.
I think I had Tindall on the back actually.
Fantastic time. Well, if you had Tindall on the back, I'll take the full kit wanker back. But
true.
I just find it so hard to compare the two. I preferred the early, so the 2000s and 99 and to the 2000s because the game was what I'd grown up and always played, and it's only been sort of since 2009, 2010 that it's really, I feel, changed into a completely different sort of beast in terms of how it is off the field, social media, contract wise, the different level of athlete, player understanding. I think that's where it changed for me, sort of around 2009, 2010.
Do you want a word on 25 years of professionalism, Hask? As a man who is professional from start to finish, or is it's just not something that's really registered with you?
Look, I think first of all, it should be celebrated. 25 years of professional rugby. I know sometimes we're talking about issues on this show, so we almost have a negative tinge occasionally on it. But I think look, the show wouldn't exist if we didn't have the wonderful game of rugby. I think it's great to see rugby back in New Zealand. I think there's lots of amazing things about the sport we all love. And we wouldn't have this podcast if we hadn't had it. So I think it should be celebrated, enjoyed. Obviously, we're nitpicking as always, and we're always dealing with current affairs. But I think rugby is an amazing sport, played by amazing people, watched by fantastic fans and organisations. And there's lots of good things about rugby. And hopefully it'll be back soon. I think, interesting enough, the stuff in New Zealand has really captured people's imaginations and also kind of shown that there is a way back to getting rugby in front of fans, and also not playing that many games and still getting players to produce the goods could be the blueprint moving forward. Dare I say it? We don't necessarily always need to play home and away every season, fill the season up with games and irrelevant tournaments. And I think there's lots of good stuff to celebrate. So 25 years, well done rugby, and let's see if we can be more professional in the next 25.
Amazing. God, what brilliant. I love it. I was about to go into a whole load of stuff about Room 101 and all that but actually that's sort of changed the point of the conversation.
It's amazing due to my limitations how well I can actually speak, isn't it?
Well, but also the positivity. Normally there's a sort of I don't think we are a negative podcast. I think we have a lot of fun, but I think the game at the moment, life at the moment in general, feels pretty heavy. And, we turn to sport because it's an escapism. And actually, when your escapism is going through a crisis of its own, it's quite easy to get lost in just an eternal sort of downward spiral. But I think you've switched it. You've switched the focus.
I agree. I think if you take away all the crap, I still love the game. I still love watching the game. I appreciate it for what it's become and how it's changed. And I still I wouldn't want to play it now because obviously it's moved on, and I don't think I'd just be Mr. Penalty Machine. If I played in that New Zealand league at the moment, I'd be absolutely fucked. I'd literally be giving away 30 myself. But that is what sport does. It always evolves, especially a sport as young as ours, because we are learning off football, we're learning off NFL, we're learning off all other sports where we can steal edges, and that progresses the game at an alarming rate. And you've just got to adapt with it and get on with it. But I enjoy watching it still. I don't like the politics that goes on around it, but that's what comes with high-end sport, isn't it?
But also look at the state of the news. How often does positive stuff make the news? I stopped watching the news. Like I read the Sky Sports and Sky News app every morning, read the articles quickly, get an overview, and then I leave it. More often than not, we don't come on here to necessarily celebrate stuff. We know, Chris Robshaw's off to San Diego. That's something to celebrate. What a career. He's finishing at Harlequins, an absolute servant of the game, a great player for England, and he's off to go and play in San Diego. What a dream. Whether the rugby's fantastic or not over there, getting to play in America, what more do you want? That is something to celebrate, and also his amazing career at Harlequins.
I spoke to him yesterday, actually, for we were chatting about a couple of bits and bobs. His first game is Vegas away.
Oh, my word. I am available to come out of retirement for one game. San Diego, sign me up.
I've got an idea. Now, we obviously want to be on the pulse of rugby. Now, I suggest potentially a House of Rugby trip to cover the journey to Vegas, pre- and post-match interview, and see how he enjoys his very first game. House of Rugby on tour.
I've already booked the open-top Cadillac.
I'm in.
I love that.
I think he's very excited about it, actually. And I think there's a bit of coaching in there. And, we're looking at positives and we're looking at things where the game is going to...
But
he's going to go.
But you never know. In 10 years' time, suddenly we've had this conversation, and the MLR takes off. Obviously, they've had their first draft system, and they've started that. I think it's great that they've brought in that draft system because it does drive people to the sport. And in 10 years' time, they could be holding a draft like. Well, not the size of what the NFL one is now, but if you suddenly got a massive amount of participants and you're seeing the next young kids go through, I think it'll be outstanding. I think it'll be great for rugby because I think we all know that America could be a powerhouse if they could switch it on. That, again, will end up coming down to, I think, the NCAA and allowing them to have, I'm not entirely sure how it works, but allowing them to have sort of that collegiate scholarship spot that can attract players to universities. But it'd be amazing if it took off over there.
Particularly with Rugby World Cup 2031 penciled in for the States. I know there's obviously a process to go through, but are you going to talk about that tweet?
Yeah, the Marquette King.
I was just digging it up as you called it.
I've got it here.
Go on.
It says Marquette King says, if I played rugby, I would dominate it easily. Come on then, son. Come on then. I think you probably would do.
I do like the idea that, if someone of, say, Adrian Peterson back in the day or someone like that, a proper athlete had said it, but this guy's a free agent kicker. So, are you kidding me? You're a free agent kicker who thinks you... I do like the fact that they're obviously Backy straight on it, but then New Zealand were
Ellis chopped in as well.
Yeah, what did he say? I bend him up.
He said, I'd fold you up, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, we better finish that quote off, or it might sound a bit dodgy.
What did he say?
He said something along the like you, Haskell, I'll bend you up like a used an old deck chair or something. Like
that. Yeah.
I can't find it.
He said that's right. Go back to your bicycling hat and your cushions on your shoulders or something like that.
Yeah,
it'd be sharp.
And then he ran a poll. He then ran a poll about it. Who would make the better athlete? And 78% came back rugby. But I don't generally agree with that. I think American footballers have unbelievable athletes, but they just don't have the skill set of the minutiae that you play rugby in. But in terms of
some of those running backs,
incredible.
Yeah,
sorry,
mate. Like you said, Adrian Peterson back in the day. Saquon Barkley. If you taught him how to run, he'd just do people in left, right, and centre. Yeah. So I would say hands down, those athletes are just light years ahead of rugby. I know we have a bit of tongue in cheek. NFL players are soft rugby players. They don't play with pads. They're getting multi-directional hits about 100 miles an hour. Some of these guys are over 300 pounds, and the game's played like 30 seconds with unbelievable footwork and pace. I think you look at some of the athletes we've got running around, myself included. Flipping it, you wouldn't get anywhere near anyone. Honestly, it'd be like a vet's game.
But in retort to that, I would say they get 6 months off. If you had 6 months off, Has, just imagine the rigatoni.
Have you heard from Christian Wade of late? Just purely out of interest, while we're doing the old NFL.
Yeah, he messaged me going, "Have you got my American number?" And I went, "No, I haven't." And then he didn't send it to me.
Thank God. Be seeing you.
That's amazing. Yeah. He's secretly going, yes. Bit. He goes, and then he should have said, "By the way, I'm getting rid of my English one."
Unbelievable. Have you ever done, either of you, just out of genuine curiosity, have you ever done anything on an NFL testing or had a conversation with any of that lot?
No.
Yes, I actually went to speak to NFL Europe after before I came back to WAS. I went and sat and met them in the offices in London, met some guys actually from the NFL, got an NFL agent, and I've never told this actually. And then I spoke to the guy from Saracens who was the second row who went over there. Do you remember
Hayden?
Yes.
Hayden,
great English painter.
Yeah, I can't remember his surname now.
Yeah, but so I spoke. Yeah, so I spoke. So basically, I spoke to them and talked to them about going across. But the issue was, I just had to have. It was when I came back from France, and I was thinking about maybe giving it a go. But obviously, it wasn't as established as what Wadey had. There wasn't those things necessarily, those development contracts in place, and it would have meant completely giving up on the rugby, and then taking a punt and maybe losing out on what was a good salary that I was going into to WAS, and I just had to have knee surgery, and I was about 26, 27, and I just looked at it and was like, look, these guys are incredible athletes. Some of these people, it's their only lifeline out of poverty, the hunger, the desire. I just was never going to be able to do it, and I just knew I wasn't a good enough athlete. But what I was supposed to do, because I didn't know I had to have surgery, was I was going to start training with an NFL coach in London to start learning to do the 40-yard, the 3-cone drill, all those bits and pieces to try to really help it. But I just didn't do it in the end. I just pulled out, which is a shame, because I would have, kind of like I did in most of my career, I would have given it a punt, but I just don't think I ever would have been good enough.
Hayden Smith is the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Tins, you need to close your curtain because you're looking very holy at the moment. There's a kind of sort of ethereal look to your T-shirt. That is really interesting. But are you a genuine NFL fan, or are you just someone who sort of keeps an eye on it, Hask?
I keep an eye on it. I'm not like Si, who is cut him and he bleeds NFL. He is, yeah. He's a complete and utter kino. I really enjoy it. Like, I love watching it. Actually, Chloe really likes it as well. I think it's for all the good-looking men, really, but I'm sort of doing a disservice there. But no, I enjoy the highlights and everything else. And actually, I used to, when I was trying to develop as a player, watch, like someone like JJ Watt, as his incredible defense, his different approach to tackling, his different tackle technique, Ray Lewis, again, somebody that I used to watch some of his, the way he tackled, the different angles and the footwork, and look to do some of the drills they did, and also the shape they were in. So that I did take sort of kind of influence from them, but it was, again, I watch it in small segments as opposed to sitting to watch the games, because, was it an hour-long game takes 4 hours to go with all the commercial breaks and everything else. So it's a little bit tedious to try and watch on the TV, I find.
Lord, have you a passing interest? Have you had an active search into the game, or just
no? I watch a lot of it when the season is on. But funnily enough, I was thinking of a story because Lewis got invited to go with the NFL down to like a training day and get fully kitted up. And can you imagine Moodos fully kitted up? He said for the first 15 minutes he was like, didn't really want it, was worried about his shoulder, worried about his knee. And then the guy, basically the coach, and these kids were like 18 or whatever, and there's Moodos there, and he was like, guys, you need to show me something. I want you to get fucking angry. I want you to get fucking angry and hit something. And Moodos has gone, okay. And apparently he said for the next 35 minutes he was just running around maiming young men, but he couldn't feel anything. He said literally his shoulder felt fine, the pads, he just couldn't feel anything. He said he could barely move his neck, so he couldn't do it. His neck was never going to be injured. And he just literally said he ran around for 35 minutes just killing people and absolutely loved it. But as you'd imagine, Moodos, it's the only thing he would be made for. Just someone who just, like Bobby Boucher, well, first of all, I'm going to tackle that guy. Unless you pass the ball to that guy, then I'll tackle that guy. That was basically, and he just said it was the best fun he's ever had. He never even worried about thinking about getting injured.
Lewis was the only person. Do you remember when we used to have a sort of England training sessions and they'd go, right, 50%? Lewis was the only person that used to get so angry that it was only 50%. So people would be running in with the bags going 50%. And Lewis would come from a sideways angle, jump over the top and try and smoke someone. Then everyone would get upset. He then ended up having a fight. And within 2 minutes, we were on full on again. Everyone threw the bags down. It was like Lewis every time. It was like, mate, he either had on or asleep. There wasn't like a button to stop it. And he would either run in and like knock you straight out, or he'd get kneed in the balls or knock himself out. It was like an interesting combo approach.
I was going to say, are there a couple
that switch was basically so on the edge that a small gust of wind would switch that switch as well. So it wasn't like you had to wind him up to do it. It could be anything.
Were there a couple of chips missing from the full pack with Moodos?
I think so. Fair few.
That's what it takes.
First time I met met his son. I was at Bath. I think Gloucester had played Bath, and he was stood across the opposite room, and I'm stood there talking to Zara, and the next thing I know, something hard hits me in the knackers, and it's his son. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you even teach your son plum shots. And Ludus is just giggling with his lad in the corner. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
But I tell you, the thing with it is it's the Leicester Borg. It's that one mind. And imagine you had a coaching staff with Jono, John Wells, Graham Roundtree, and then you've got Lewis Moody, and John Wells is running the forward session with Graham Roundtree, and we've gone, right lads, so let's go 50%. And we've run and go 50%. Moodos has flown in. We've fired up. John Wells has got a bag. Graham Roundtree's got a bag. People are getting spinally compressed and then Jono's come out of nowhere. I remember we did a session once, and they were practicing kickoffs. And they kicked a ball over Tom Croft. Jono ran like, that's Mr. Gilmore's jacket, over the top of Crofty, like got him with an elbow as he sailed past, caught him with one hand, and just powered off down the thing. Wells was like, tackle him. I was like, you fucking tackle him. But honestly, every session, it was like, honestly, it was like if Wellesley was standing by a breakdown with a bag, people were running from the wing to take him out. Do you know what I mean? It was utter carnage. And the more you did it, the more they got fired up. And then when Jono got a bag, honestly, one player went into him like that. It was like an accordion, went, got folded straight back out. On air ambulance, he's gone.
The worst thing is, you think he's joking. It's not. Literally, like, Jono would come in and put his 23 mil studs on just for a mauling session, and he'd literally be single-handed just pulling people out, throwing them all over the place. Like, Jono, you retired, mate.
I know.
You're all nuts. You're a special breed, you that play the game. Very interesting. Here's to American rugby taking off and a road trip to Vegas, and good luck to Robbo and his new venture and all that kind of thing. A couple other bits and bobs. Are we excited? Obviously, we're excited about the summer holidays, but are we excited about rugby, the return to play? That question around 101 is interesting because actually this is our 101st show, would you believe? So before we do positives, let's quickly dip into what would you chuck into rugby's 101, room 101 right now?
Can we talk about the new laws that they're running in New Zealand?
Yeah.
The dynamic movement thing, I think, is ridiculous. I get it, but right. I think it's ridiculous. But again, is that...
Just explain it.
Well, basically now, even when you're tackled, wherever you're tackled on the field, it's the same as if you were going for a second movement of a try. So if you think that someone might have let go of your feet and you try and get up, that's a penalty now. Unless you let go of the ball and then try and stand up. But then if the guy holds onto your legs, it's still not a penalty. But I don't know whether it's just getting used to it and they're being hard on it in the first 2 weeks because of they just want players to sort of abide by, if you're tackled, you're not trying to get back up, you're just immediately playing the ball. I don't know.
Okay.
It's right. Annoyed me in these first 2 weeks, but that's right now. That is ultimately right now.
Yes, that is very of the moment. You can go back 25 years if you like, but you know.
Oh, if past, okay, we need to have thought about this. You'll have some, so why don't you go? Because I know that you have a mind that can remember.
Well, to be honest with you, right now, I'd put rugby politics in room 101 right now. I would love to get everybody with a blank sheet of paper and say, let's go. But I just cannot believe, and I said it last week with Alice, I just can't believe we're still going around this roundabout again. And I'd get rid of rugby that doesn't mean anything as well. You've got to have a purpose and a meaning a very good and a high stake behind every game that is played in order to keep an audience engaged, particularly in the modern world. You know, games for game's sake and competition for competition's sake, just go in my room 101. I want derbies, rivalries. I want, big stakes on every game. And then you get people that buy in and you get players who, for whom it means something.
Can we start up the House of Rugby League and we set the rules and then players come to us? We just need some backing, don't we? CVC.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's where you come to the party. Dust around down the back of the sofa and let's get a £1 billion league going.
The Duchy of Cornwall biscuits or whatever it is, or Prince Charles, bag of grapes or whatever he's thinking.
Sponsored by Duchy of Cornwall. We're definitely
Cornwall endorsed House of Rugby.
I'm not sure Ellis Genge is going to buy into the Duchy of Cornwall. He's like, I thought we were trying to mix it up a little bit. Get all
Listen,
backgrounds playing. You couldn't get much more.
Money talks, pal.
The Duchy. Yeah, well, true that.
Hask?
No, look, I think you've hit the nail on the head, Alex. I think, there's so much good about rugby, but I think, the lack of clear governance should be thrown in the bin. The lack of who's in charge should be thrown in room 101. The politics, the lack of professionalism around, negotiation, contracts, and player treatment, I would throw in the bin as first and foremost.
Let's do a mid-show trail. Why not? Coming up, we're going to talk about the past 10 months on the show. We're going to have a guest's 15 Guinness Perfect Pour. But you are listening to and watching House of Rugby on Joe together with Guinness, with me, Alex Payne, alongside Hask and Tim. The dream team united for a final lap. If you are new to the show, where have you been? But a very warm welcome to you. There are exactly 100 episodes, apparently, preceding this one. And you can find them wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Don't forget the new episode of Sports Pages is out as well right now, the podcast that digs into the stories behind some of the greatest sports books ever written. And this week's show focuses on Tom Gregory, who in 1988 became the youngest person to ever swim the English Channel, aged 11 years and 330 days, which is quite remarkable. It also talks about all things around that challenge, and the book is called A Boy in the Water. Have a listen to this.
The first, including the swim through the darkness, that was just hugely exciting. There was quite a lot of swell in the channel, not chop, not the little wavelets, the things that slap you in the face, but the swell, like a roller coaster. And I'd never really swum in the dark, so I discovered luminescence for the first time, the thing where if I got far away enough from the boat, my hands, as I plunged them through the water, would light up. And looking down on the boat, if I was on a peak and it was in a trough, it's just like, wow, this is cool. And it was dark and it was exciting. Everything's exciting in the dark, isn't it? And so there's a sort of sense of euphoria balanced with trepidation, whatever the word might be. The middle third was just sort of getting on with it, really, just trying to chew up the miles. Some of that is about boredom and managing boredom. There's no one to talk to. It's hours and hours and hours. Swimming for a long time, it does sort of play tricks with people's mind a bit, I didn't really understand it when I was 11, but there's only so long you can do it for before it does things to your brain. Yeah. And it's something about the head moving from side to side, the noise and things like that. Getting through that was hard-ish, but mostly enjoyable, actually. The last third is the bit that you can't train for because I'd never done that much before. I had to double the distance and time that I'd been in the water before. And so that was a bit dark because I got to sort of levels of exhaustion and things that I hadn't been to before. I fell asleep at one point whilst I was swimming along. I had a very clear hallucination, which I can still remember if I just sort of close my eyes and think about it. And I think mentally there's a slight thing of despair going on. And it's one thing, loads of people from the channel who've read that book have emailed me and said, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it's like.
You're watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness.
So that was Tom Gregory and his book, A Boy in the Water, on this week's Sports Pages podcast, which is out right now. Can either of you swim?
Yes.
I can swim very badly. Like when Chloe and I go on holiday, we try to engage in like challenges. So in Ibiza where we were, there's like a giant rock. And I thought it was quite a good idea to swim out of it. It's one of our training things today. It took me 75 minutes to get there. And that is a long swim. And obviously I don't necessarily have the buoyancy of most people. And Chloe was laughing because I was in the sea, but with no goggles. So I was swimming, but my breaststroke action essentially meant that my legs were underneath me. So I was just pulling myself on with my upper body with my legs dangling below. So she had to teach me the next day to swim in the pool to try to get myself completely flat. But I was like, babe, I can't. My legs just sink. So yeah, I'll have a good go at it. I won't drown, but I'm not the fastest.
You're definitely not, because you got beaten in Get Me Out of Here as well, didn't you?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yes. Oh, yeah, but how well did I do, though, to be fair? It was fingertips.
Fingertips. Yeah, I'm all right. I had to practice swimming when I retired. I did a quadathlon, which involved sort of 1,300 metre swim. So I'm all right at swimming.
Good. I like it. We've been invited to Geneva in the Maldives for that sort of one up the ladder, I'm a celebrity, where you eat caviar instead of kangaroo nuts. Yeah. I'm looking forward to a marathon swim on that.
Yeah.
Armbands and a rubber ring all round.
After you've just gorged yourself on caviar and lobster, yeah.
Can't wait. Quite an interesting challenge that, though, aged 11 and 330 days to swim the channel.
That is incredible.
How far do you guys reckon you'd get swimming the channel? Would you ever take on something like that with training? David Walliams did it, didn't he? And Greg James has done it.
How many illnesses did David Walliams have, having to practice in the Thames and everything? He's just got so many illnesses, didn't he? That is a huge feat. 26 miles.
Something like that.
And sometimes you can be swimming against the tide and you're not actually going anywhere. I mean, it's.
No.
I think that is as much physical as it is mental, because swimming is so boring. Plus, you're going to be freezing. Yeah, you can't hold. You're not even allowed to hold on to the side of the boat, are you, or anything?
No,
you have to. If you stop, you have to float and just do it all yourself. Nah, that is mindless to me.
I spoke to Ed Jackson the other day, so we were having a little catch up, and I was just checking to see how his body was after his mammoth stair climb. It's sort of the same height as Everest range to raise money, and he's now doing next year an Ironman. Or no, sorry, an ultra Ironman or whatever it is. So, but I said to him, well, listen, actually, I'll do it with you, because he can't go very fast. I thought it was the perfect crime. Like, I could go with him and help him with it, until he explained to me what it was. And he was like, he's got to figure out, first of all, he's not definitely sure he can do it, because he's got to see if he can actually ride a bike. But the run he would obviously walk, and the swim he's actually not too bad at. But it's something like, it's like a marathon at the end of the day with a 100k bike ride, and something like, a 10-mile swim. I'm like,
it's something like, 3 or 5 mile swim, isn't it? A long one is a 3 or 5 mile swim, a 100k bike, and then a marathon. It's like,
I've backed out of it. He's trying to get through to me. As soon as I heard that, I was like, absolutely not. I mean, I would listen. I think now, with the delay on the fighting stuff, and the uncertainty over that and what's going to happen, I am looking for a challenge. But I think we'll probably start something smaller. Maybe get my 50-meter badge, which I never got as a child, perhaps over my.
So what are you going to do? What challenge would you take on now? We'll get so much reader feedback on this in terms of what we should be doing. But if you've got one challenge that you'd like to take on, what would you do?
The problem is I can't run it. Like, I can barely walk at the moment. So my limitations are not great. I think it'd have to be a cycle ride. I think something like that.
Bolsh once said to me a cycling one, he would like to cycle the Great Wall of China. I said, Bolsh, have you ever figured that whether that's actually logistically possible? There's a lot of stairs on the Great Wall of China and bits missing, I think, in the middle. He was like, yeah, but it'd be a great adventure. I was like, yes, it would. Do you know how long it is? He's like, no. I was like, I think it'll take about a year.
The only person I'd back to do that is Danny McGaskill, who's that guy who does the Red Bull stunt bike stuff.
Yeah,
Bolsh on a penny farthing along the Great Wall of China is not a documentary I need to tune into, I don't think. I'd like to surf one of the big waves. I'd love to have a crack at like Chaupu or Mavericks.
Yeah,
you only get one bite at it, but I think that would be a moment where you'd look at yourself and wonder whether you'd achieved all you could before you pop.
Yeah, I'd like a dangerous one. Even one of those fly suits, or those things where you either land it or you die. Basically, just jump out and hopefully you've got your angle right. I'd love to do something like that, but I'd probably die. But it'd be worth.
Let's stick to what bikes on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Let's not dawdle or dwindle too much. Let's have a little reflection on the last 10 months of the show. How do you reflect on House of Rugby season 2? What have we done? What are we happy with, and what are we going to do?
If we're going to start on positivities, Japan I thought was so good for this show. So good for us.
Was that this year?
Well, in this calendar year, yeah.
That feels like a different lifetime ago.
I just think how good it was for the show, how good it was for all producer Si and everyone behind it who came with us, how good it was for us as three best friends, and that's where it came back from. I thought it was unbelievable. Obviously, what happened on the pitch was fantastic as well, but the memories for me wouldn't necessarily, apart from the England-New Zealand game, would mainly be off the field, I think, and some of the stuff we got up to, and the content we managed to do. I thought it was just so much fun. The people we bumped into, I thought it was outstanding.
I mean, look, I think we're so privileged to be able to put this show. It started off as, Alex calling me up and saying, look, do you have a go at it? And 101 shows later, we're here and we've met so many people. And I think every show is a roller coaster ride of emotion, fun, the best bits of rugby, the worst bits of rugby, the best bits of kind of sporting triumphs and failure and injury. I think I've just loved getting to know the personalities, and every time we have a show, I never know what's gonna happen. I think Japan was a real highlight. I think getting some of getting some of the honesty and stuff of like guys like Sean O'Brien and hearing about his kind of childhood and, him cleaning boots and driving tractors, and that kind of thing I thought was fantastic. I think Ellis, his refreshing kind of approach to life. I think, Chris Robshaw, again, a man who probably doesn't do a lot of media, to have his kind of honesty and candor and to get to talk on that. And obviously, I just think it's pretty exciting that we've had, I think there's a stat here from old, so I might be stealing your thunder, Alex, but we've had, 11 Lions tours between them, 1 All Black skipper, 4 Rugby World Cup winners, 1,443 combined international caps, and 1 Clapham Falcon. That is a hell of a show. And
he's one of my favourites as well. Payno. That's
probably a highlight, just getting a proper nickname for you, Payno, out there. And I think, do you know what? A bizarre thing is, we still haven't even scratched the surface, I don't think. I think there's still personalities to be uncovered that people don't know. There are still stories to be told. There is still honesty to be had. There are issues to be nailed down. And I think House of Rugby is not just an hour podcast anymore. It is something where, we've talked about, we've discussed, it brings information, facts and details and breaks people down. And I always want people to come on the show and feel free to be able to talk without judgment, because we want to know about the personalities. We don't give a shit about the score. It's all about the personalities.
Love that.
And we've realised we can never do a live event with Jiffy ever again.
Never again.
There are offcuts from that show that will never see the light of day. No. Lord, your favourites? I mean, you mentioned Japan, but guests, stories, etc.
I think we've been very lucky to have, and I'm trying to remember ones that Hask hasn't. Or obviously, I love Hambo. I thought we got the best out of Hambo when we had him on there. I think the ones that I've also enjoyed is Knowlesy. I enjoyed Knowlesy's one. And just how I just love how, he lives his own life and then he goes and plays rugby and then he comes back and he doesn't talk about it. I just love that side of it. He's just completely separate, stops following Henry Slade on social media because he can't deal with it. I still think it's quite unique. That is just so what the words.
My favourite bit about that one is the fact that he calls arguably the most respected coach in the league Baxter. There's no sort of Sir or Rob or respect. It's just Baxter, which I thought was very fresh.
I tell you who also was really good was Ben Kaiser. He was really good.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about him, and the way he spoke he was just fascinating. I really enjoyed that podcast. I remember listening to it in the car, and I was like, "Wow, really like this guy." I actually wished I'd been on the podcast to sort of join in, because he obviously talked a bit about rugby, and Haskell obviously didn't say anything for 45 minutes. So it would have been nice to have jumped in every now and again.
But he was special, actually. I spoke to someone today about the Ben Kaiser episode, just how good he was. And again, it's just a variety. Rory Best, coming on, and again, his kind of journey and his views and his disappointments and his personal battles with people. I thought Matt Gitto was absolutely champagne. Like, you Tins, you know him better than I do. I played against him, but never really got to spend time with him. And he was somebody that I could instantly feel like I warmed to across, even though we're on Zoom, warmed to and wanted to have loved to have gone out for a pint. I love the story he tells of with Eddie Jones's mate. He goes, "Listen,
Champ.
Thanks, Champ. Champ, do you respect anyone?" I just love shit like that, because I can imagine Eddie losing his absolute mind. Oh,
he's back. Yeah.
Hey, no.
How are you?
Back.
Oh, the best guest saved for the end.
And Tins is it. Unbelievable. Hey, no. It's great to see you, mate.
Cousin, you fucking penis. How have you hacked your way into this show?
Mate, Si called me and said, "Look, you need some banter." And I'm here. And also, he's given me some tweets that he wanted me to read out that have come from sort of some of your listeners. So I'm just going to go for it. He said, just get on with it. But Payno, it's just great to see your face.
I've missed you.
And Tins.
Do you know, I've now got knobs in the street giving it the old, Payno. I'm like, don't do that.
So happy to be face to face.
Tins, it's just an honour to meet you. 2 rugby legends, a DJ Haskell and Payno, the second best presenter to present the rugby club after Simon Lazenby. Oh. Boys, it's
Doesn't
going to
get
kick off.
better, does it?
Please, can someone get this guy off the show, please?
No, I think he's a permanent fixture. Mincer, how are you?
Permanent penis.
I've got some tweets here for you.
Right, firing.
So a guy called Michael wrote, James Haskell's forehead is as big as one of my arse cheeks, and I weigh 345 pounds. So you can imagine how big that is.
Mate, it's good. It's good,
Very
I
true.
think. It's very true.
I think Michael either plays prop forward or plays darts. But thank you, Michael. KP wrote, holy shit. Do not listen to this podcast while driving. I almost crashed the car nodding off to listening to the human drone that is Mike Tindall.
I love that.
That's an offence in my hands. He wouldn't be allowed into Inferno's, that guy.
Wait, surely that's like if you come again to remember the royal family, that's like you go sent to the tower, aren't you?
Yeah. In Clapham, it's an offence. You wouldn't be allowed anywhere in Clapham after that kind of comment. Another guy wrote, Ben, he wrote, I've only noticed Payno's nose, and now I can't unsee it.
Right. Good. Is that a mate of yours, Curzon? It has to be coming thick and fast from the fringes.
Another guy wrote, how has Alex Payne increased in sexiness? I'll never know.
Good. Male or female?
Is that a positive or a negative?
It's actually, it says AC. That could be me. That could have been my tweet. I'm not really sure.
You're always very
Payno,
welcome.
It's the beard. It's the beard has sexied you right up. You know, and it's I've seen it. I've seen you develop, flourish.
Good. I'm following your searching. Yes.
Bojo has obviously released, pubs are opening in a couple of weeks. Got to email Haskell. I've got a few things I need to speak to her about. I'm actually pitching a show to Dave for me and you called Meat Feast. It's just basically following you as an ultimate fighter, following me as a semi-pro rugby player, but like barbecuing and just having great chat. Are you in?
I'm in. Of course I'm in. I'm in. Anything with you.
And
can I be water boy or something? You find a spot for me,
Tins, you can come on the show anytime. What I was thinking about is that what I want to do is invite you all. I'm hoping Haskell DJ, and then Tins, you bring the 2003 World Cup winning team to Clapham Common. I'll get you a VIP area. We can all hang out. Payno, you're invited, but you have to wear a vest, unfortunately.
Not happening.
No, you'll have to. It's the rules on Clapham Common. You have to wear a vest.
Right.
But just before I go, and look, I've got to say, this is my favorite rugby podcast. The chat, it's unbelievable. Last week's show with Genge, can I just say, a lot of my friends disagree, but I think me and Genge would get on really well. We've got a lot in common.
If he stared at Haskell for a little while, he's going to stare at you for a long time, Archie, before he lets you in. He's going to try and figure you out.
I was just confused. What school I didn't know the school he went to. I wasn't aware of it. But before I go, I have actually got the tweets from when I was on the show. Just to sort of give you some sort of feedback.
There was a lot of debris in the aftermath of your show. I will go that far.
I think a lot of people are loving it, Payno. This guy called Yano said, this is incredible. Watching Payno's struggled expressions throughout kills me. This cousin guy is gold. Another guy wrote, excellent chat. Good to see Archie helping a smaller podcast out like House of Rugby. And guys, you're welcome. But guys, keep up the good work. Thank you so much for having me on. You're all heroes. I can't wait to see you in Clapham. Fridge, I'll be in touch, mate. I'm speaking to Dave about a few shows. Tins, I'm hoping to get you on my podcast and hopefully get you down to Clapham for Infernos. Payno, I am training for the boxing match. You better prepare yourself.
I'm coming for you, Curzon, and now I'm doubling down on the training. Over and out. See yourself out. Close the door. Bye.
Bye, mate. What a hero. Oh, my God. As if he's got in.
Did you know that was happening or not?
No. Can I clear something up, though?
We're looking for a new producer for Series 3. I can tell you that for free.
Oh, Payno.
Can you imagine how loud Sai's laughing right now in his double denim? He's almost choking on his top button. He's choking on his top button. He's gone a little bit red. There's a vein popping in his head, but he's enjoying it.
Payno.
I'm exhausted.
You know that actually when Archie actually came on, there was, I'd never look at the comments, but I got a few people DMing me on Instagram with just the sheer aggression and hatred, like saying to him, this fucking guy, who's this, like genuinely believing He was a real operator. It was astounding.
I don't do social media, and I had exactly the same reaction, and full credit to him. I actually quite like the idea, whisper it very quietly, of a sort of a guest appearance on a regular basis.
Oh, I'd love that.
Just for reaction.
Set him a weekly task.
If we can get the old studio show back and running, I think he would be a weekly feature with Archie. Send him out on the streets as a sort of a full caricature, going to interview the top brass at the RFU, or going to the shed and interviewing people there. I think it would be amazing. Obviously, he has to dress appropriately: red trousers, custard socks, slip-ons, and a suitably nice vest.
Vest with a jacket.
I feel quite giddy after that. There's a sort of freestyle with Curzon, which I yeah. But let's cut out Payno for Series 3. We don't need to go any further with that. Okay, couple of quick bits before we go. Lions tour, 14 months' time, possibly longer, depending on what we're going to do with the calendar. Shall we pick a Lions first test 15, and open the envelope again in 14, 16 months' time?
Well, we can do it. Yeah, we can do it. Can do, yeah.
We fly through?
Yeah.
Right, go. Let's put it in an envelope, and we'll come back to it. And actually, already, I think I've got it embossed in the diary, the Lions tour. A little van, up and down, some time in Cape Town, the Winelands, get ourselves out to Franschhoek.
So keen.
I think that could be a lot of fun. Have you picked one, or do you want to come back to it?
I think Mako, Loosehead.
Where are we starting?
Marla?
Are we starting at the bottom end, do we?
Mako, Marla, any of the Scottish boys?
Well, I think Mako would be a start. If Mako is on form, he's definitely starting in my eyes.
Has he got to get back in with Eddie before he gets back into Gatland's plans?
I don't know. Does he?
Tell me.
Has he really fallen out with Eddie that much that he won't get in? But then,
no, I'm not sure he's fallen out with him. But I think, Marla had the shirt at the end.
Yeah.
And Ellis was in there, obviously.
Well, obviously, Marla's got 2 more retirements in him before the British and Irish Lions comes around. So we don't know where he is. So I would say he's probably
comeback kid.
Yeah, I still think Mako, if he's playing, he would still pick, whether he's playing for England or not. I think he'd still pick him ahead. Hooker,
Jamie George
at the moment.
Ken Owens to go.
Kept the Sheriff.
Yeah. Tad Furlong's got to be the main one. Maybe Stinkler.
Good Tig.
Yeah.
Tig or Kyle.
We've got to pin our colours if we're going to do this. So I'm going to go Furlong, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's probably in a slightly pole position at the moment.
Second rows. To get 5 second rows, presuming he might go 4 and a back row who can play both. But it's Toje. You've got Cruz obviously will still be available. Courtney Laws,
James Ryan,
Johnny Gray, Alan Wynne-Jones, Henderson.
You've got quite a few options.
You got a lot.
Are the Gray still? Will Richie Gray still?
Yeah, you'd probably Johnny would probably be in the equation. Yeah, pick 4.
There you go. We're going to pick 4 of them.
No, well, pick 2. Sorry, pick 2 tests. Sorry, I'm suddenly thinking squad.
Yeah,
pick 2.
Itoje and Ryan.
Agree.
Like back row.
Tom
7.
Curry.
Yeah.
Tom Curry at 6. Shuin.
At the moment, I think. Still have
8.
Still have Billy at 8.
Yeah.
Stander. Falatau. Moriarty.
Tipperick
at 7. Underhill.
Yeah.
Hamish Watson.
Yeah.
Josh Van der Fleer. I'm just naming names now.
If I was picking a Lions team, I would probably have Watson in it. I think he's.
Would you?
I think he's very.
So back row of Watson, Billy, and Tom Curry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. 9. Webb, Youngs.
I think he'd be Welsh.
Conor Murray still.
Gareth Davis.
I think he'd be Welsh.
Gareth Davis.
I think it'd be either Webb, Davis, or even the other young chap. What's he called? The other Welsh scrum half.
Thomas Williams.
Yeah, Thomas Williams. Yeah, I think it'd be Welsh who plays scrum half.
Okay. Do you want to pick one of the 3?
I think Davis. He's my favourite.
Okay. I'd say Davis for experience.
Yeah. 10.
Faz.
Finn Russell, Owen Farrell, George Ford, Johnny Sexton, Adam Hastings.
Faz.
I thought maybe, look, unless you put Faz at 12, but maybe put Faz at 10, or Finn Russell if he can get together with Scotland and,
I think they've built bridges again, Finn and Gregor. So hopefully that comes back round. Would you go Farrell? Would you supersize, given you're playing the box?
Yeah.
I would probably.
Yeah.
Okay. 12-13. Manu, Davis, Jonathan Davis, Gary Ringrose.
Well, there's a
you've got
partnership. If you put Manu and Foxy together, and you can get them playing together well, that's not a bad setup.
Yeah.
Robbie Henshaw. You'd go Manu and Jonathan Davis.
If Foxy's fit, he's definitely in the front runner. He's just so much experience and he's got class, hasn't he? So, and then you need someone like Manu who can just break down doors if you need it, especially against Africa. You're going to need someone like him. And then if you use him as decoy and use Foxy on the outside, and then you can mix and match with those two very well, I think.
Back three.
Anthony Watson. He was on Fuego last time he played.
Where would you put him there? I think I'd put Hoggy at fullback, him on one wing, and
Johnny May.
I'm just trying to think. Well, you could put Josh Adams has been pretty
Josh
good.
Adams played very well.
Yeah.
George North still dangerous.
Yeah, but I wouldn't at the moment in terms of what we can judge on to select. It'd be between Johnny May and Josh Adams probably.
What about Lewis Rees-Zammit?
Oh, he's an outside shout, isn't there? There's a out the for the up and comers.
Hask just proving his depth of knowledge extends
also,
beyond.
I tell you what, Joe Cocker-Singer, he was injured going on that World Cup tour, come back, had his surgery. He was pretty dominant before he wasn't right during that tournament. It's not really people talked about that. He's had surgery just about getting himself back fit. So interested to see how he goes, because against Africa, a man of his size could be unbelievable.
Are we happy with that then? What are we going with?
So Watson's got to be in there. So we've just got to do the other wing.
So you've got Hogg at 15, Watson and the other wing.
Yeah.
Jordan Lama in Ireland.
Yeah.
Hotfoot. Singer.
You play well. Stockdale.
Jack Knoll.
Knowlesy.
If he's fit.
Right, there's back three, there's a lot of good options, isn't there? I don't think Stockdale would actually be quite a good fit if you play in South Africa in terms of options. Hard blitz, crossfield kicks, little chips for himself. Never seems to miss a try when he just needs to kick the ball every time he gets it and he scores.
Intercepts as well.
Intercepts, prime. And so I think he would actually probably fit into the structure of playing in South Africa.
And also, if you remember with the old blitz defence, Ugo got that lovely intercept against South Africa last time. Replace him with Stockdale.
Yeah, so there you go.
Good. I like the sound of that. Let's put it in an envelope.
Someone's going to tear it apart, though, aren't they? On the below the lines.
They will.
But we won't read the comments. We don't go in the Facebook group, so it don't matter.
Don't read below the line. Okay, I can't wait for that. I do still maintain that Lions is the most special thing in rugby. I think.
I agree.
And certainly one of the most in sport. So here's to an exciting Lions tour next year, whenever it might be. And just before we go, this week's Guinness Perfect Pour. We haven't done one of these for a while, actually, but our weekly test in 119 and a half seconds to round off Series 2, because that's how long it takes to pour the perfect pint of Guinness, is we've had 53 guests on the show during this series. And of the players we've had, you have got to pick a 15. You can include yourselves if you so wish. If you've not seen every show, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Tom Wood, Rob Vickerman, Jerry Flannery, Chris Robshaw, Luther Burrell, Alex Good, Justin Marshall, John Smith, Tom May, Rachel Burford, Ellis Genge, Jess Breach, Johnny Beattie, Nolly Waterman, Sean O'Brien, Jiffy, Jonathan Fox Davis, Rory Best, Ben Kaiser, Ed Jackson, Ken Owens, Matt Hampson, Mo Hunt, Matt Gitto, Ben Youngs, Jack Noel, Mark Jennings, Jamie George, Sam Burgess, Will Carling, and Archibald Curzon. 1 to 15. Can I just say, actually, we were talking about our favourite shows. The Will Carling one for me was fabulous.
Yeah,
I really, really, really enjoyed it. And there was a very good article with him in The Guardian, actually, which kind of followed up from what we were talking about, which if you haven't read it, you should have a look at. Hask mentioned 11 Lions tours, 1 All Black skipper, 4 World Cup winners, 1,443 combined international caps, and a partridge in a pear tree, also known as a Clapham falcon.
Do you want me to go? I've got. Are we going to do it individually?
Go. Yeah, fire away.
Okay, so number 1, Hambo. Number 2, Rory Best. Number 3, John Schmidt. Some of these players have to play out position because we've got a lot of odd forwards. Number 4, Chris Robshaw. Number 5, Tom Wood. Number 6, Ben Kaiser. Number 7, Ed Jackson. Number 8, Ellis Genge. Number 9, Ben Youngs. Number 10, Matt Gitto. Number 12, Sam Burgess. Number 13, Jonathan Davis. Number 14, Sean O'Brien, because that Lions finish. Number 15, Jack Knoll, and manager and head of media, Archie Curzon.
I mean, that is a 15. It's a bit like reversing the batting order at school, where the tail ender goes into open. I like Ellis Genge at 8. There's definite potential there. Well done, Has. That's 15 names in some sort of an order. But I'm not going to argue with any of them.
How would you fit all of those people into a normal team? Like, how are you going to fit, Ben Kayser, Ed Jackson, Sean O'Brien, all in one same forward pack?
We have been a little thin on second rows over the course of Series 2, it's fair to say. We've got some work to do in that department when things come back together. Tinsy, do you just want to pluck 15 names?
I'd gone Ellis Genge 1, the Sheriff Ken Owens, because we always need a blazer man. 2,
we do.
John Smith. I got creative in my second row, so I got Sean O'Brien and Ben Kayser because I didn't.
Hell of an engine room.
Yeah,
weak in the line out, but good at pushing.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Wood at 6 because I quite enjoyed the fact that he just makes things and I just loved everything about his podcast. He's so laid back and so down to earth. 7, I hadn't got one, so I'll go with Ed Jackson as well. Sam Burgess at 8, Mo Hunter at 9. I had to have Archie Curzon at 10, pulling the strings, because no one can pull a string like he can pull your string, Alex. Knowlesy at 11. My centre partner had to be the 2 Jonathan Davises they were outstanding in that live show. They had to be they had to be in there as my centres. I got Jess Breach just for I just loved how
unbelievably chopsy.
So chopsy and belief, and she actually convinced me she was going to score 13 tries in that Six Nations. And then I've got the man who did the longest session after the World Cup, Alex Good. Is in my fullback.
Safe hands at the back.
Yeah.
That is a good card that we've got through in Series 2. I'm very excited about where it goes from here. But when that is, and who knows, we shall watch and wait with great interest. But I think just before we go, I just sort of I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, and the headlines on the news are fairly heavy reading on a day-to-day basis, but we've absolutely loved doing it, and we're very, very grateful for all the support. We're hugely grateful to the guests who've come on and shared their stories and had a good giggle with us. And I think, all we've ever really wanted to do was be a platform where people can share the things that matter to them and the things that interest them and the things that entertain them. And hopefully in some small way, House of Rugby over the last year or so has been an enjoyable time out from all the stuff that really does matter and going on in the world. Well done, fellas. We've had a good giggle, haven't we? Any other business? Any final thoughts? Any summer holiday plans?
No, all I would just say for me, I think, I know we always joke about the fans and everything else like that, but thanks so much for all the input we get. We love all the followers on the Facebook pages and our Instagram, and everyone who tunes in, and all the people who've downloaded. I think 11 million or 12 million downloads we've had, and the 80 odd million minutes of watch and listen. So whatever happens next, we know you'll be with us. I think lads, we've got more work to do. I see other people's podcasts attracting people like Eddie Jones on there. We still haven't had Marrow on there, Dylan Hartley, Owen Farrell, the sleeping banter giant that's not been woken up. There's so many more people that we need to entice onto this podcast. And we, for some reason or other, we haven't quite got them all. So there's lots more work to be done in whatever guise that is. So thanks to everyone. Thanks to you two absolute heroes. I love every minute. It's my favourite part of the week. And let's be honest, it's the only bit of work I do in the week.
Bang on.
No, I just echo what Has said. I think it's great for the fact, it's been a complete eye opener for the first 2 seasons about how many people come up and say really like the podcast, really love that, and I would encourage people to keep coming up and saying that and giving us ideas. And remember, if you see Hask in the street, don't forget to put your hand around his neck, ruffle his hair, say good Hask. It's amazing the journey you've been on from being mean Hask to good Hask, and he won't strangle you. He promises us. So I think it's been a great show, and I'm looking forward to we've got some fires in the irons in the fires for who we can get on for Series 3, and hopefully it'll back Season 2 up.
Bring it on. Well done, chaps. It's been a real hoot. It's been a lot of fun, and I would echo Hask. It's been a very nice hour out of the week, in amongst all the other flack that's flying around. Summer well, look after yourselves. I'm sure we'll speak sooner rather than later. But that is it. That is it for this week. That's it for this series, which has literally taken us all over the rugby world. Thank you for watching once again. Thank you for listening as well. Thank you for coming to our live shows, for buying the merchandise, which, would you believe it, is still available at shop.joe.co.uk. rugbyS2E48.co.uk. We hugely appreciate all of your support, and we're into the bin juice of the t-shirts and the caps and the jorts, which are available via that website. We are going to have some best of shows to tie you over through the summer. We're going to be back in a few weeks' time with more great guests and actual games of rugby, would you believe, which hopefully we'll be able to get stuck into. Keep the conversation going on our Facebook group. Do be nice to each other in there as well. But thank you to Hoff. Thank you to Tins. Thank you to all of you for watching and listening, and to our guests once again as well. We will see you in a few weeks' time. Be good to each other. Look after yourselves and have a great summer.
You've been watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness. Drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.co.uk for the facts.